Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in. I'm Elric Fremen, and to fill the space until I have my first Deadman video recorded, I thought I would put together a beginner's guide to Last Man Standing / introduction to hybriding. For anyone who doesn't know, Last Man Standing is a safe PvP minigame located in the Ferox Enclave, just north of Varrock in the mid to shallow wilderness. The Enclave itself is a safe zone and can be easily accessed via a ring of dueling. The first thing you'll want to do before playing is familiarize yourself with the starting inventory and organize it in a way you feel most comfortable with. Here at the supply chest. This is how I keep mine, but yours can be different if it works better for you. Some people prefer having their switches up at the top so they don't have to worry about them moving late into the fight when you're eating your last few pieces of food. For me, having my switches close to my special attack weapon is more important. Next, you'll want to understand the different switch states you can be in. This will help you avoid making unnecessary 4-way switches when you could have made 2 2-way switches without telegraphing your attack. Being able to fluidly switch styles with muscle memory is the first skill you should practice outside of Last Man Standing matches to not feel completely lost. To understand how to one-tick switch, first know that mechanically, RuneScape is a rhythm game to a certain extent, even in PvP. All of your starting main hand weapons in Last Man Standing are 4-tick speed, and this is a relatively easy rhythm to master. You want to switch on the offbeat between the 3rd and 4th tick. Hit and 2 and 3 and 4 switch, hit and 2 and 3 and 4 switch, hit and 2 and 3 and 4. If you're switching to your tank gear between hits, then instead it's hit switch 2 and 3 and 4 switch, hit switch 2 and 3 and 4. Now any of those spaces with an "and" can be used to drink a potion, switch your prayers, pretty much any of those things that don't actually have an attack speed penalty, like eating a solid piece of food does. You can eat a food during those ands, but it will reset the timer for your next hit based on the food's attack speed penalty. Now, in the starting equipment, this gear is what I'll refer to as your tank switch. It has virtually no offensive capabilities, but gives the max defense you can achieve across all styles with the gear. The same setup with your robe bottom on offers maximum mage defense at the cost of range and melee defense. You'll want to start every match in your tank switch, and once your clicks are quick enough, practice switching back to your tank once you see your XP drop go off for your attack. This will seem overwhelming at first, but it means you will rarely ever need to make more than a 2-way switch on any given attack in any style. If you don't do this, your mage switch will be a 3-way switch by default. Easy enough to do, but you'll be squishy against ranged and melee attacks much longer than needed. All you need to do to mage is put on your robes. For range it's just the crossbow, and for melee it's just the whip and defender. Now this will help you take a lot less damage than just focusing on praying right all the time. To be honest, there are many times where my tank gear saves me from what could have been a huge bolt, even though I had my prayer off, just because I remembered to switch back into my tank every single time. It'll reduce your damage taken, especially when they're hitting you and you're already praying right. Now, there are a few ways that you can practice your one-tick switches and one-tick special attacks while you're not in LMS. And one way is grabbing a fun weapon that's also 4-tick speed, like this prop sword that I'm using here, and hitting a creature that you're not too worried about tanking. You can just practice timing your Dragon Dagger specs off of the 4-tick fun weapon, so you're not going to kill them too fast with the weapon in your hand, and make sure you get your spec practice in. Another way is to practice specking during your Slayer training, or if you're maging your Slayer task, I like to bring a tank switch to manually cast on the Slayer task and swap to my tank in between barrages to practice getting the muscle memory in to swap right as your XP drop comes in to get back into your tank gear. I recommend Proselyte or Initiate depending on your level for the prayer bonus because you're not really using it to tank in that situation, just to practice. Also, if you're a mid-game account, the starting gear for Last Man Standing is all pretty affordable, so if you want to straight up practice on NPCs in the gear that you'll start out with, that's pretty doable as well. Now, if you've never hybrid PK'd before, I would recommend that you stop here and you keep practicing this until it's locked into your muscle memory. Now, a lot of people will recommend that you watch your opponent's weapon in order to decide what prayer to use defensively. And this does work on slower and newer opponents, but ultimately what you're going to have to do is watch your opponent and see what they do before each of their attacks. You'll start to notice a pattern for each person. Once you feel somewhat comfortable with your switching, it's time to get into your first game of Last Man Standing. So in these next few clips, I'm going to go over the initial fights and how to manage your inventory as you loot. Now, right off the bat, I immediately pray Mage and Augury, drink my Saradomin Brew and Restore, and pot up, so I'm overhealed and have my stats boosted right off the bat. Now, I clock the nearest guy in robes, and immediately as the timer ends, I put on my robe bottoms and crossbow, and I shoot him with a bolt. This is to minimize the chance that I get frozen, and get immediate starting damage and momentum in the fight. Now, the alternative is that the nearest target to you has a crossbow out and is in their tank gear otherwise already. In this situation, you immediately put on your robes and go for that initial freeze. The advantage to opening with the bolt is that most people will be praying Mage at the start of the match just like you are, and if you hit big, they'll likely switch to praying ranged immediately, so you can immediately follow up with a big barrage for your initial freeze. The XP drop shows me that I splashed the freeze in this fight, so I switch to my tank gear and try and bolt him again. Noticing he's still trying to mage, I do manage to get that last second switch to the robe bottom. The bolt is pretty big, and he immediately switches to praying range. I hit him with an enormous blood barrage for a 30. It should have been an ice barrage, but everybody misclicks now and then. And because I don't tunnel vision on just catching the freeze first, look how much pressure I keep on this guy. Look at that HP differential. And he caught the first freeze. Now we're going to take advantage of this momentum that we've just built up by keeping an eye on this timer down here in the bottom. Once I can move again, which is what this timer is indicating, I'll run in for the spec by first shooting him with a bolt and then clicking the ground in front of him so my movement is disguised by the bolt's animation. Then as soon as I'm close enough, we hit him with the Dragon Dagger spec, just like this. Back to keeping up the pressure, making sure he has to switch prayer, and then we'll spec him again. It doesn't quite get the kill, and since he's still in robes, it's worth throwing that second spec in even though he's praying melee now. Could have hit a lot bigger than that and been the kill. Now the food advantage I've built up with the momentum over this fight has pretty much won me the fight at this point, but it drags out for a long while from here. So I'm going to speed things along, skip a little bit towards the end of this fight, because eventually he does start to DD just to drag it out even longer, I guess. Maybe he doesn't know that I still have 12 sharks and a Karam 1. Like, there's just no chance with this in this situation. But so try and tell him, man, it's little dick energy, but he's not having it. With that food advantage, we go ahead and secure the kill. Now when I say it's over for him when I have 12 sharks and a Karam 1, it's not entirely true. You should never give up. That's also small PP energy. DDing is small PP energy, and giving up is also small PP energy. Because you just never know when you're gonna fire off a fat 43 bolt right through prey range. Now once you do secure your first kill, don't waste any time. Run to the nearest chest while you pot back up and fix your inventory. The PJ timer is nice, but it doesn't give you time to mess around. Replace any of your existing equipment that you receive an upgrade for, and drop the old items. Keep an eye out for anybody who's not in a fight, because if you're quick, you can get the first hit on them by ending your PJ timer early. Maintaining that initial momentum is important because the more you can keep your opponent eating, the less contested damage you're dealing and the more uncontested damage you deal. This really pumps that food differential up, as you can see in this fight. I've eaten almost nothing when we get to the end, and it's because I just keep maintaining that momentum by blood barraging him when he's already frozen and going for hits constantly. Now, in this next clip, we're towards the end of the match with 6 survivors left. I am keeping the occult necklace in my inventory because we're towards the late game and I haven't received an upgrade to my body or legs. and I feel like I need the mage bonus to maintain control at this late stage when everybody has their upgrades. It proves really advantageous in this fight, because this guy doesn't have any mage upgrades, and he's rocking the Darox, so his mage defense is pretty bad most of the time, and my blood barrage is going really hard, which keeps my inertia up and his down. Here in the late game, I see we've got 3 survivors left, so this is our second to last or last fight. And I see the only upgrade this guy's got for me is the Dragon Claws. I'm not taking the full Darox, I don't have time to loot it. So I grab my chest to get this key out of the inventory. I already have the Seer's Ring, so I ditch it, I get potting up, see what else I have, no upgrades there. I decide, you know what, I want those Dragon Claws, and I'm going to get rid of the Occult Necklace, because there's no space for all of that. Now I do use it to catch this initial freeze, and he's got pretty good mage gear, so it might have been worth keeping, but I decided to ditch it for the inventory space, because I don't like having to drop anything in order to spec. Now he flashed his VLS just a little while ago, so I gotta be real careful of his melee. As you will see here in just a moment, he's gonna come in and that thing will shred even right through the melee prayer. So I eat up, see that he hits a 56, thank god I triple ate the tick before. Comes back in for another one, he just starts working me. But like I said, you never want to give up. Eat when you have to eat. Try and get your momentum back and get control of the fight. Once you have an initial HP advantage, maintain it. Keep that pressure on, like you see me doing here, going in for those special attacks. I just keep hitting back. Try and hit when he doesn't expect me to hit, like when he thinks I'm eating. Sometimes I'll pot back up at mid to low health, make it look like I'm eating just to go in for a big hit. You can see here the Vesta's longsword is just exceptionally powerful. He just keeps cranking out those hits over 40 over and over and over again with it. Like I said, you never want to give up. I'm here with 2 sharks left, and I'm just going in for as many of these big barrages as I can, trying to keep my health up. This fight is not over yet. So keep going in for the barrages to keep our health up. Watch that freeze timer. As soon as it hits 0, bolt him to get him on prey range. And then there goes the Dragon Claw spec. And that is how you win a game of LMS. Now, you're not going to win every game, and a lot of them will probably look a little something like this. I know mine do. But I promise, if you remember that giving up is small PP energy, then after a little while, your games will go from looking like this all the time to looking a little bit more like this. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Elric Fremen, and if you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe. I've got Deadman mode videos coming out next week, so stay tuned.